Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Pixel, a monthly interview show here on Model Citizens Media, where I, your host, Max Roberts, talk to different people in the video game industry and share their stories with you. If you like that, you should go to the website, modelcitizensmedia.com, and check out all our podcasts there. We got a music one, a regular just Joe Schmo, talk about whatever we want show, and then our gaming news show, Millennial Gaming Speak. You can check all that stuff out over there. This time, I have with me David GrandPOOBear Hunt,
yes, sir.
The famous Mario 3 streamer.
Definitely not.
Should I call you David or Pooh Bear? Like,
okay, so this is weird, but most people call me Pooh now,
all right.
Which is kind of, it's strange. At first, it was a little weird for me even, but I've gotten so used to it now that it's kind of strange when I'm like out in the world where people don't call me Pooh. Pretty much the only person who calls me David in my real life now is my friend Chris and then my wife. Yeah, and that's pretty much it.
Do your parents call you Pooh?
No, they just I don't know. Yeah, they sometimes they do, I guess, now, which is kind of weird. Yeah, my dad called me it last time, which I thought was a little weird, but yeah, that's
I can call you Pooh because that's
they come in chat all the time and they're like, my mom's name is Mama Pooh, and when
I reached out to you, I called you Pooh at first, and I was like, this sounds a little weird, but this is what he calls himself. So
like a rep from Ubisoft sent me the Mario and Rabbids game, and she put "Hey Pooh," and then she in parentheses like giggles as I type that. Like that was cracking up. So yeah. Most people call me Pooh out in the real world, and when I go see things now, which is strange, I guess. Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Strange. Now you need a license. Your driver's license needs to say Pooh on it.
Yeah, I'm good on that one.
Anyway, Pooh here, he is streamer on Twitch, puts stuff up on YouTube and stuff, but he mostly runs Mario Maker, Super Mario Brothers 3, goes to the GDQs, does all those crazy runs. Current world record holder in Super Dram World, I believe.
Yes.
And second place in Dram World 2.
Yeah, but that just came out. Like,
hey.
I'll get that soon,
it did just come out.
Yeah, and the only person I'm behind is the creators. So is that even? By the time this airs, I'm gonna have that. No, I'm joking.
We can go for it.
Yeah, I have that former world record holder in Kaizo Mario Brothers 3, and 10th in the world in Mario 3 right now, which is like meh. I don't want to toot my own horn, but toot. No, I'm just kidding. It's all things that really don't matter in the real world. Like all the compliments that have
it's a world record, regardless.
Yeah, and you feel like that. You sit at your computer and you're like, I'm the greatest at one thing right now in the world out of all these billions of people, and then you go to tell like your wife, and she's just like, oh, okay. By the way, we need to clean the gutters.
It's the importance of it in the world, but it's really cool, and it's one of the reasons I love watching GDQ in general. It's just the crazy things people can do in games, and it's very, very impressive. So today, what I really wanted to focus on was your story of how you actually got into doing this. You have been doing this, at least Mario Brothers 3, since 2015, so not super long. I think fair to say, but you've been streaming and playing games since 2013 because you had a snowboarding accident.
Yeah, I actually, in 2000, it was 2013 now. April 2013, I got hit. So before streaming, I always played video games my whole life growing up. I got an NES when I was 2 years old. My sister is 10 years older than me, so they technically bought it for her, but it was my NES. It ended up becoming my NES, and I was just obsessed from a young age. And I also was obsessed with sports, basketball, baseball, and snowboarding. As my life went on, snowboarding became more and more about my life. I went to the University of Colorado because I wanted to snowboard more. After college, I decided, I can work or I can go snowboard more. So I started to make snowboarding my career through teaching and, trying to win small competitions for money and whatnot. And, fast forward to 2013, I got hit by a big skier, like just an out of control big guy. He was just a giant guy. and smashed me up. And no fault of my own. Like, I had injured myself. I'd broke my arm and other injuries through snowboarding, but nothing like this. This was I tore my knee, broke my kneecap, broke my back. That one still bothers me a little bit. But the real big thing was I had a bunch of internal injuries. My kidneys were all swollen, all my intestines, like all my digestive system was really bad, and then my spleen was really swollen, and that ended up causing a bunch of infections. So I ended up having to be in the hospital for a lot longer. I had 106-degree fever at one point, which was scary. Yeah, and I'm not the same. I wasn't the same after that. I'm slower now. I talk slower than I used to talk. I have to think about things a lot more, and I see myself, like, my brain wants to say things, but my mouth won't follow it, which is kind of funny because I still talk fast, but I'm much slower and much not as quick-witted as I used to be when it comes to that. Like, directly after the fever, you kind of like realize those things. I don't know. It's really weird how that happens. But I got out, and I found myself with a lot of time. I couldn't snowboard anymore, so the next winter rolled around, and I was just, like, bored. I had nothing to do. I was just lonely and bored. Sorry, my dog's in here. And one of my buddies was streaming Halo on Twitch, and he was like, "Hey, watch me play Halo." And I was like, "Okay, sure." And I didn't know what Twitch was at the time. I booted up my Xbox 360, actually, put on Twitch, watched him play Halo, and I was enthralled. I was just having a blast. And then I was like, all right, what else does this little platform have to offer? And then I saw a Magic the Gathering tournament. And like 8 hours later, I was watching Magic the Gathering, like, on Twitch. I was just like, all right, I'm hooked. This is cool. I'm going to do this with my time. So I started streaming Rust and other, like, survival games. I'm really into survival games too. I like speedrunning and survival games. And after a couple years of that, and like, I never really thought it would be like a career or anything. Like, it was just like for fun. I started speedrunning, and that everything kind of changed after that. I started to gain traction in the Twitch world, not because I like meant to, just kind of organically. It just started to happen. So, and I fell in love with speedrunning. Like, I just became obsessed. Like, it was just like, it took me over. It felt like snowboarding to me again.
Why did it feel like snowboarding? Like, where's that correlation?
Okay. So snowboarding is a lot of trying the same thing over and over again with very little results. Like, I spent, years trying to learn how to do, different tricks, and, finally I learned it once, and then the second time took me, a tenth of the time to do it, and then eventually you got really good at it. Speedrunning's a lot like that. It's a ton of failure mixed around with these extreme moments of success. And it just kind of like, it just took everything that I was addicted to already and put it into video games, and it took something that I really loved. Like, I already loved video games, but it just like it just blew it up into this like passion. Speedrunning was like, it was like introducing an addiction prone person to hardcore drugs. Like, that's what it was for me. It was my thing. Like, once I got into it and realized how deep it went, I couldn't stop.
And now you're in deep.
Yeah, now I'm in deep. Yeah, now I'm in deep. That's exactly what it is. Now I need rehab. Yeah.
Well, so was the first game then that you were aware of speedrunning or got into Super Mario Brothers 3?
Yeah, so what I did was I basically picked Super Mario Brothers 3 because it was my favorite game of all time. Like, I was like, well, what's my favorite game of all time? I knew I was going to have to play it a lot, and I was just like, all right, Mario 3 is my favorite game of all time. I'll try to get good at Mario 3. And I really didn't at first. Like, I wouldn't say I got good at Mario 3 till recently. I played Mario 3, and I think everyone's first speed game, you're scared to try, like, the best strats. I think there's this idea before you speedrun a video game that these players possess something that you don't, and literally the only thing they do is time in their game. I'm really truly a believer that when it comes to at least like speedrunning platforming video games, and I don't want to say this about all video games because I don't know if this is true about necessarily Counter-Strike or League of Legends, but I think speedrunning is something that literally everybody can do. The world record strats, everybody can perform them. It's just a matter of how much time you're willing to put in to being consistent at them. And it's, I think when you first start a game, your first game, you're always going to be worried to do those like world record strats or the hardest strats because you think the person above you has more talent than you or possesses something you don't. But all they really possess is time. And then as time went on, I realized, like, wait, why am I doing these baby strats? Sorry, strats are strategy, by the way. I know.
Yeah, I knew that. I guess we should
know,
clarify that for
like,
everyone.
yeah, if you're like listening out there and you're like, what the fuck is this guy? Sorry, I don't know if you can swear.
You can, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if you're just like, what the fudge is this guy talking about? You're just, I think, like, you're always timid. You think like these guys are Michael Jordan of things, but speedrunning's so new that we don't have our Michael Jordan yet. We're still in our Christy Matheson phase, and we haven't got our guy yet. You know, like, we're just not there yet. And you can do all this. It's just going to take time and patience and dedication. And I think that's the real thing that, like, got me good, was just realizing, like, hey, there's not really much difference between me and this guy, you know.
That's interesting to hear, because I've dabbled in speedrunning one time, and it was with The Link Between Worlds. I read a Kotaku article about how the game was beaten in like 90 minutes. I was like, how is this possible? So I watched the whole 90 minutes one morning during breakfast. I was like, I could do that. That doesn't look hard. And I started, and then I got to Turtle Rock, and I couldn't do one. I had a very tough time with one glitch, and then I kind of just faded off with it. But it does sound a lot like sports. Like, it takes practice and time. You just have to do it. And I guess after an accident, you had a lot of time.
I did have a lot of time. You know, that is definitely one thing that happened. I had a lot of time. I also got really lucky after my accident. I went from snowboarding to announcing things. One of my friends one day asked me to announce like a snowboarding competition, and that randomly led to more and more gigs. So I transitioned to a night job right after that. So I had a lot of time to stream too. Like, so all my
during
days,
the day, yeah.
Yeah, all my days were always open. I would work at night, get home at 2, sleep till 10, and then, you know, it would happen again. So I got really lucky in that respect too. As, you know, also having the wife who was way too supportive of just, you know, giving me a hobby so I wouldn't bother her all day after I was hurt, you know. You
guys were married at the time when you had the accident?
We were engaged. Yeah,
okay.
We were actually engaged when we had the accident. When I had the accident, we got married like 6-7 months later, about, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months after I got out of the hospital. We didn't change our date or anything. Like,
right.
Yeah, that stuff's paid for, man.
Yeah, I'm getting married in October. I know.
Yeah, so you get it. Yeah, you get it. October what?
October 20th.
Dude, that's my anniversary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Now we can celebrate together.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. That's
hilarious.
That's small. That's a 1 in 365 chance.
I'm dragging my poor wife to TwitchCon for it this year, though. So
is TwitchCon happening? I guess around
October 20th. Yeah.
Where is that?
In Long Beach.
Okay.
We'll make a little vacation of it.
A mini vacation.
Yeah. Congratulations, by the way.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So Super Mario Brothers 3 is also my favorite Mario game.
It's the best.
It's great. It's so good. The earliest recording I could find of you playing Super Mario Brothers 3 for speedrunning,
research, man.
Yeah, well, it's really easy if you just go to YouTube and switch organized by oldest first, and you just scroll until you see the first Mario thing. It looks like you're playing an emulation of, I think, the Super Nintendo version is what it looks like.
Yeah.
And now, so how does it, there's so many different versions of Super Mario Brothers 3, but just all sorts of different games. How do you get to just, now you play the NES version, like the original version. What is that progression, and how do you go from emulating it on your computer to playing it off actual hardware?
I think first of all, I picked the Super Nintendo version because I didn't know better. I didn't realize. I was just like, oh, Super Nintendo version is prettier. I'll play that one. And now I don't think that at all. I think the NES version is much prettier than the Super Nintendo.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, but that was kind of my logic. I was like, oh, it's prettier. I'll play it. And then the very first day I decided to speedrun, a guy named Cujo came into my chat. Cujo HSV, and he's one of the all-time legendary Mario 3 speedrunners. However, I did not know that at the time. And he came into my chat, and he literally just started dropping little knowledge bombs on me, like, oh hey, the Super Nintendo version runs slower because it has the Mario start screen everywhere, so you're gonna lose time right there. Oh hey, don't jump for the wand because the wand falls slower than Mario, and both of you have to go below the screen. You have to go to the bottom of the screen. And just these little things that he just kept dropping knowledge on. He was extremely nice and polite and super cool about it, and he kind of became my first like senpai in Mario 3 speedrunning. You know, he totally just. I would go to him and I'd be like, hey, how do I do that? I would ask him the dumbest questions. Like, hey, how do I do this? Hey, like, you know, how do I clip through this wall? Like, do I need to do a bunch of different, he's like, just jump in the wall, man. You'll go through it. Like, just all these really silly, weird questions. And he was always extremely kind enough to answer them. And, you kind of just, you figure out like, what's the best version, you know, if your game plays faster in Japanese, you eventually have to start running the game in Japanese because you get to a point where the version's holding you back from a better time. So, it's just kind of progression. You don't really want to necessarily change, but you have to. As far as like the emulator versus real hardware situation, it's just like if you were into a bowling league or a golfer, you wouldn't use rental equipment every time, and that's kind of the emulator, what I would say.
You should put that on a shirt.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my logic. And not that there's there's nothing wrong with emulators, especially for practice. Like, I don't have a problem with them, and emulators eventually will be the only way we can play these old games, because one day all these NES games will disintegrate. So, eventually it'll all happen, but as long as we can, I want to stick to real hardware as long as you can.
Does that make you a little sad that eventually all these things will break?
CRTs will go first. The CRT TVs, the old school TVs will be the first thing to go, and then you know what's going to happen is some dude's going to make a Kickstarter to make like new CRT TVs and make $1 billion. Like, hey,
if he can make easily accessed Sony PVMs, I'd give him money.
Yeah, CRT for those of CRT TVs are like the old school tube TVs you have in the 90s, and I have like
ray tube. Yeah,
I have like 5 in my house. Anytime we're in a neighborhood and they have like a TV on the corner, like somebody's trying to I pick them up every single time. My wife hates it, but you know, luckily we have a garage, so.
So do you play then when you're playing? Are you playing on a CRT?
Oh yeah, you play on old school TVs. It's a lot.
Even with a FrameMeister or something?
Yeah. Well, I use a FrameMeister. I use like an upscaler for my stream. So
to get it on the computer.
But yeah, I use a CRT TV. I usually just like either like split the signal, like the split an RCA signal, or I have like my NES is modded for dual output. I paid silly money to make my NES dual output RGB for my stream and RCA for me, which is like the old red yellow.
Why not RGB for yourself? Isn't that the higher quality?
Yeah, I just don't have an RGB TV, and I just I don't know. Yeah, that's just a weird personal preference.
No, that's fine. I'm just curious. I've gone down the rabbit hole with RGB stuff, like research wise, and I want to do it, but it's very expensive to like get all the stuff you need.
Yeah, I think that's for me. It's like the CRTs. I don't want to. The RGB CRTs are kind of harder to find, and
it's super hard.
Yeah. So I stick to the easy ones.
So in the same vein as Super Mario Bros. 3, I'm kind of curious. When did Kaizo 3 come into the picture? So
after speedrunning Mario 3 for a few months, Mario Maker came out. And I got real obsessed with Mario Maker. And,
you still play it to this day?
Love Mario Maker, yeah. And it Mario Maker also was when my stream started to take off as well. And that was definitely because I got addicted to Kaizo levels in Mario Maker. Like I found Panga.
Yep.
This guy named Pangaea Panga. It was at the time in Mario Maker, he was like the only one making these really cool, original, super hard levels where you're shell jumping and you're really tight jumps. And
P-break.
Yeah. P-break and Skyzo and like all this cool stuff that was coming out, and my mind was just being blown by it, and I was spending hours and hours playing these levels, and I just wanted to get good at them. And fast forward to that GDQ that January, Carl Sagan 42, who's my friend to this day, asked me to be a part of a Mario Maker Kaizo race at AGDQ. And I had never been to AGDQ, and I didn't think I was good enough to go to AGDQ. This is another fallacy that that was shattered there during AGDQ, where I just didn't think I was good enough or anything. And through that, me, him, Mitch, and Penga all became really, really good friends. And so I got to commentate the Kaizo Mario Brothers 3 for Mitch, who ran it that year at AGDQ. And after commentating it and watching it so much, I just was like, I know this game. I'm good at Mario 3. Like, I'll try this. Yeah, I'll try this. So it took me only like 2 weeks. Mitch helped me out. Like, he gave me a bunch of strats, and it took me like 2 weeks, and I got the world record in that. And that was my first world record ever. And I was amazed at how much time it didn't take, and B, at how little everyone cared afterwards. I thought it was, I don't know why, but I thought like I was gonna get like a parade thrown for me in my hometown or something. Like, I don't know, it was so stupid. It was
seeing some of these levels. I'd throw you a parade. That stuff's crazy.
They are hard. So like Kaizo means rearrange, but it kind of means here in America it means hard now, and it's really fun. I don't know. I'm addicted to the more difficult if it's difficult but can still be done consistent, it's something that I really enjoy. Yeah.
I guess then my timeline, really Mario Maker is kind of what put you on the path toward playing Kaizo 3. And you still play Mario Maker to this day. It's the thing you do. I want to talk about P-Break just a little bit, because I remember I watched the video, it's not long, it's like 4 minutes on your YouTube channel, of you beating that level. And even I probably couldn't beat that level, it just looks easier compared to what you do now.
Oh yeah, it is. It's way easier than everything we do now. It's kind of weird. At the time, we thought P-Break
was the hardest level.
2 years ago. Yeah, we thought P-Break was just incredibly hard. There was a like, it took me 26 hours, I think, total for me to beat that level, that one single level. And it's essentially 4 tricks in that level, is what it comes down to. There's 4 sections. And there was a time in the middle of it where I was like, I'm never going to beat this thing. And it's kind of crazy how we went from thinking that to even just a few months later playing that in a marathon and being extremely confident that I will beat this level within 3 tries. Like, it's not going to take me more than 3 tries to beat this level. And it's just, I think it shows like the evolution of how good Mario community specifically has gotten over the last 2 years. And I would say specifically spurred by Mario Maker. Like, Mario Maker like was a catalyst to like shoot all these incredible Mario players. They didn't know they were incredible Mario players until they had an outlet for their talents, you know? I want to say.
So Mario Maker's been out for almost 2 years now. I guess 2 years is September. Yeah. And I haven't played the game in a while, but what is the community like now? You've been an active member since the beginning. Yeah. Where's the future of Mario Maker, do you think, now that the Switch is out and all this stuff? Like, what's Mario Maker like?
Well, hopefully the future's on the Switch very soon. Like, that's what we hope. Because, I mean, Mario Maker is a weird game in that Nintendo supported it really hard right after it was released, and then just stopped. And they also didn't give any indication that they were going to stop supporting it. They really gave every indication that they were going to keep on supporting it. Their the last downloadable content we got for Mario Maker, which all of it's been free, which has been great, was 16 months ago. And it was in a Nintendo Direct, and the guy, it was right after, I believe it was not too long after Iwata died, and it was one of the first Nintendo Directs without Iwata. And I remember the guy talking in it, he says, another Nintendo Direct, another Mario Maker update. And he was like, he really made it sound like we were going to get continued support for the game. And then around that time, it seemed like Nintendo just made the decision, we're not supporting the Wii U anymore, we're focusing everything on the Switch, which was probably the right business decision, but it really sucked for us. Because we haven't gotten anything new to the game, and we're really limited on the tile set, I guess, or the objects we can create with. We've kind of explored generally everything we can do with the game. I want to say generally. People will still blow our minds because it's a user-created game, or user content created game. And we're in a different place now. We're definitely a smaller knit community, and I think we're kind of, instead of doing these big, grand, awesome levels like P-Break was at the time, and these gigantic, cool things, we're more all like just passing around little fun stuff to kind of still play, because we still have that itch. We still love playing Mario Maker, but we're not necessarily getting an outlet for the creativeness behind it, because it's not a dying game. It's a dead game from Nintendo's standpoint. Like, it's a completely dead game from Nintendo's standpoint. I think right now we're just all hoping that they don't turn the servers off before we get a sequel. Like, that's, you know, there's a group of us both here and in Japan, and it's a rather large community of, you know, multiple thousands of people that still actively play the game, but we're just kind of hoping that they don't turn the servers off. Like, that's where we're at. We're just kind of like, please keep the servers up.
It's interesting with user content created games like that, where it all lives and dies on a server. You know, I remember when they shut off the servers for Nintendo DS Wi-Fi, and there were people playing Metroid Prime Hunters until the last second, until they couldn't play it anymore. Like, communities still gather around these things, and it's weird that games live and die now by server costs rather than, you know, it just being on the cartridge or disc or whatever. Yeah.
Mario Maker's unique. It has a really older community, so I wouldn't say everyone that plays it has a lot of time. You know what I mean? It definitely harkens to an old nostalgia. So for a lot of guys, this is the game for them. You know, this is the way League of Legends is the game for some people. Mario Maker is that for a large group of platforming players. And we're going to be bummed if they shut off the servers before they give us a sequel of some sort. I don't know what we'll do.
Do you think that sequel is on the Switch, and how that would work with it being docked, but then it's a touchscreen undocked? Like,
I mean, they could give us a mouse, right? Like,
yeah, they did it with the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, if they give us a mouse, that's fine. Like, a mouse would be better than the touchscreen, in my opinion. And even then, like, it still has a touchscreen. We can make levels on the touchscreen and then dock it. Like, maybe you just can't. What do I want to say? I was talking about people, like, maybe, like, it would suck for streamers, like, you couldn't see levels being created, but it also would be kind of cool because all levels would be blind then too. Like, you'll never have a video of a level being created. I don't know. It would have its pros and cons. I'm sure Nintendo's smart enough to figure that out. There's, you know, like, but I mean, they could give us a mouse, right? Like, that's my initial thought. Just give us a mouse. Yeah.
I think it could happen. I don't see why not, but then it's also Nintendo, and we have to do.
That's the other thing. It's also Nintendo. You never know what they're gonna do. Like, there's
voice chats through an app, and it only works in certain games.
And, you know, the Mario Maker community definitely has that relationship with Nintendo. We have large, you know, we've had issues with them. I got all my levels taken down.
That was when you brought up issues. I was like, that's a natural transition.
Yeah, I had all my levels taken down by Nintendo in Mario Maker. They like basically labeled my account as a cheater, realized it was wrong, and fixed it. So, but everything was gone regardless. Like, and later on, that became big news. Actually, it was on. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and later on at a GDQ, a Nintendo representative actually came up to me and told me the real story of what happened, the thing that they wouldn't tell me for the longest time, which was interesting how they did that, which I actually thought was really nice.
So what's that story?
So Mario Maker eventually went to an automated. So they didn't think Mario Maker would be a big hit, so they had human mods to review level. Like, if you reported a level, they had human mods for a certain amount of time. After a certain amount of time, they couldn't pay those mods anymore because there wasn't in the budget, you know, and so they went to an automated mod system. Me being a streamer, but not necessarily a big level creator, I got a lot of reports on my levels. So I got hit with so many reports that the automated system just thought, you know, Is
a report in that game like being flagged on YouTube for, like, inappropriate content, but in a game it would be like it'd hack level or something? Yeah, I'd imagine that's
what it's like. I've never used the report button, so I don't know. But yeah, there is a little report thing you can see on each level. And yeah, so they hit me. Like, one of my levels got so many that they took down all of them through the automated system. They realized it before I even called, and they realized it before I did. And when I called and put it online, it kind of, like instead of, they just shelled up as Nintendo does.
Yeah.
And, and then later on they were like, all right, now here's the story and we're sorry. And, and that was cool. And I thought that was cool. They didn't have to do that. And that could have just been one individual that did that. And it was really nice of them to do that and even reach out. And Nintendo, I've seen them, I don't want to say like put out olive branches. Like I don't think they're ever going to work with us gamers, but they're definitely like, they acknowledge us now at least, which is something they weren't doing 2 years ago.
I'd agree with that for sure,
yeah.
Especially in the design of some of their games and some features, not so much others, but some games have stuff built into them.
Yeah.
Does anything in Mario Maker surprise you anymore? When you boot up a new random level, does anything surprise you?
Rarely. It does happen every once in a while. It's usually now though. It's usually people that like are like hounding me on Twitter to play their level, and I don't want to play it because I don't like that. Mm-hmm. And then but like sometimes I'll just I don't know like I'll be bored and I'll be like, all right, I'm gonna boot up one of these Twitter levels, and then it'll be something so cool that I'll go through all that creators things and I'll find it. It's I still find cool creators. There's like this guy Composer who has really kind of made these really ridiculous music levels. There's been music levels since the beginning of Mario Maker, but this guy like sounds like he has a whole symphony in his level, which is super awesome. And then there's another player, Ape and Mike, who's I think his screen name is just Josh on there. He's made these. They're called the Grand Escape Room levels, and he made them specifically for me because I love escape rooms, like real life escape rooms. And they're like they're not like traditional Mario puzzle levels. They're escape rooms in Mario Maker, which those have been really cool. Like I got to get out the pen and pad to like solve them. And
so is it like the next step of those one room puzzle levels?
Yeah, it's like a step up. They're multiple rooms, but it's not like you're not using Mario mechanics necessarily. You're using more traditional type of puzzle solving. Like you're like. Yeah, it's you. I don't want to spoil them, but you should play them. They're really good. And so like things like that have blown my mind. There's always like people like there's a calculator. There's calculators in Mario Maker, and like people have done it different ways. They built different types of calculators, so those are really cool. I'll see some of those but it's not often anymore that I can't remember the last time in Mario Maker where I was just like, holy shit, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. I want more of this. It's been a while. I'm ready for an update.
I hope we get a sequel. I would really love that game on Switch.
I think that game would be, in the portability of it on Switch, like the idea that you can go, like they can you can meet someone right there and get all their levels, you know what I mean? I think that's...
And they dabbled with that a little bit in the 3DS version.
3DS,
Did you play that version at all?
I like the 3DS version. It was fine when I was traveling. I mean, it wasn't like a main version of the game. I used to call it like the little brother version, or the neutered version. Yeah,
that makes sense. I remember when they announced that, and then they said, "But you can't put levels online and share codes." It was like they just kept it in a cage.
When they announced that was also the end of Mario Maker updates in general as well. So. I also hate the version because I strongly believe
it killed
that's what the team went to make them. And it was a smart business decision, though. I mean, I can't fault they weren't making any more sales on the Wii U, so I can't fault them from a business standpoint, but from me diehard, like my career in some ways depends on Mario Maker. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's like certain streamers. I remember Destiny, Dado on YouTube. I don't know if I'm sure he's on Twitch. Dado, like when Destiny didn't have any updates, it was like you've really got to reach out to make content related to Destiny. You got to get creative and stuff. So from a consumer perspective of the content, I get it. Like you got to figure out ways to make it new and exciting. So then more recently, Super Dram World 2 came out. Which was a sequel to Super Dram World made by Panga. And you were directly referenced in that game a few times.
Yeah.
How did it feel getting that game that day? And you streamed it with Dode, right?
Yeah, Dodecahedron.
What was that like, getting a new Mario Romhack. It's like a new Mario game for you, basically.
Yeah.
What was it like?
I mean, for anybody, I think a new Mario game is a big deal for anybody. Panga's pretty special to me, like in a lot of ways. I think Panga is, he's like a 21-year-old like genius. He's so smart when it comes to level design, and he doesn't sacrifice fun to be hard, which is something that a lot of people do. He makes really fun, awesome, visually impressive, hard Mario levels, and it's like that's the gift God gave him, and it's extremely exciting whenever I get to play any of his creations, but especially when you get to play like. It's like cool to get like a song by Kendrick Lamar. It's cooler to get a whole album by Kendrick Lamar, and that's kind of what getting Super Dram World 2 was. It's just, I don't know, it was super fun, and then it was even cooler that he referenced me and Dode into it, because we put a ton of time into his first game, Dram World 1. We put hundreds of hours into that. We both ran it at GDQ, and for us to get referenced in the second one was really cool, and also because we both like look up to Dram the speedrunner. So Dram is a speedrunner. It's not just like the name of a game. He was a speedrunner before us, and it's really cool to just kind of be like, I don't know. That's something I'll be able to show my kids. Like,
you're
hey,
part of a legacy.
In a lot of ways, like in this weird little tight knit community, that'll always live, and that was really cool, and I'm super honored about it. The only thing I didn't like was he made fun of my bridge building skills in one level. Yeah, he took a pot shot at one of my YouTube series.
Was it the Bridge of Polly? Was that
the bridge? There's a level called the Bridge of Polly in it, and he basically makes fun of my ability to build bridges in this game called Poly Bridge, and that's what the level is all about. So outside of that pot shot, I was pretty stoked about it.
It was I really had fun watching. I got through about half of it, like your just playthrough of that game. I'll save the rest for GDQ.
Yeah.
But the surprises in that game I thought were really cool to see, and it's to see the excitement on both of your faces as you realized how to figure certain levels out. That's the puzzle. Yeah,
that is the funness of those games. It's like you have to figure out this extreme way to get through these levels. It's not like just run right.
And there are some crazy ways to get through those levels.
Yeah.
And when you figured out how to get the mushroom for the mushroom skip, that, I thought that was cool, and I'm sure there's even crazier stuff later on in the game.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
I'm kind of curious how you play Dram World 2. Is that something you play on the computer, or are you playing that on actual hardware?
I play on actual hardware. So there's these things called reproduction carts.
Yeah.
And so for those who out there don't know, like your cartridge is a piece of hardware, and the game is a piece of software on your hardware, and a lot of cartridges can hold a lot of different games on them. And so what a big thing is we do is we take less popular games that are mass produced out there, like your Madden 96s or something, and we'll erase the game on there and put a Romhack, a fan-made game on it. So it's basically looks, feels, plays like a legit Nintendo release or Super Nintendo release. There's also other ways to do it, like with sorry, I was going to show you, but I guess that doesn't really help your listeners out there.
No. I'm curious still, but
it's called an EverDrive. So
I've heard of those.
Yeah, an EverDrive or an S2 SD to SNES, and you can get those on like Stone Age Gamer. But basically, you can put an SD card inside inside a cartridge, and it will play the vast majority of a library for a cartridge-based game. And they have one I have one for an NES, I have a 64 one, I have a Genesis one, and it allows me to have a large collection of both fan-made games and real games out there. And how you acquire those games, like that's in your own shady world. And that's up to your own moral standards, but it allows me to have a large collection and access to a lot of video games on real hardware.
I've seen sometimes some retro game stores have reproduction carts of fan-made games in the stores, and sometimes they don't tell you they're fan-made games, and you're like, I don't remember this Batman crossover with this, and then other times it's like, oh, this is some Zelda adventure someone made, and here you go. I always think
The downside is when you buy the Earthbound cart on eBay you think you got a deal on it, and then you find it's actually a reproduction cart, and that's a downside to the reproduction business. I don't even want to know what it's called, the reproduction game.
Yeah, I've looked into GBA carts on eBay before, and I always try to make sure I'm getting an actual thing instead of, because those GBA games you can run rampant with the reproduction carts.
Yeah,
it's no fun.
And it's hard to tell. Like, it's like impossible to tell for some of them. They can do really good.
They're really good at hiding it.
Yeah, exactly. So,
I want to talk about GDQ now, which is something I've been aware of probably for the past, I want to say 2 years is probably fair. GDQ, for listeners who may not know, is short for Games Done Quick. There's one in like the winter time, like December, January, that's awesome Games Done Quick, and then one in the summer, which is Summer Games Done Quick. And they generally raise money for Doctors Without Borders, or I think the Prevent Cancer.
The Awesome Games Done Quick is Prevent Cancer Foundation, and Summer Games Done Quick is Doctors Without Borders.
So they raise lots and lots of money for very good causes, all because people want to watch other people play games really, really fast. And that's something you've been a part of for about 2 years now?
Yeah, I've been a fan of it since I found Twitch. That was one of the first things I started becoming obsessed with right after I found Twitch, was because I started watching Twitch in December, and then I quickly got to watch my first AGDQ, and my mind was blown at some of these guys. It
does that.
Yeah. Your mind first. If you've never watched Games Done Quick, you totally should, because people are going. Your childhood will be destroyed. They're gonna take games that you thought you were good at, and then they're gonna show you, no, you weren't good at them at all. You are a scrub. And they're gonna just murder them and glitch them out in all sorts of great, awesome ways. And I mean, like, even down to Mario Kart, you're gonna see like the best Mario Kart players in the world at this. It's really cool. But yeah, I got involved in watching. A couple of years before, and actually, Games Done Quick is the reason why I wanted to start speedrunning. After watching a few GDQs, I saw Dram run Kaizo Mario World, and I knew about Kaizo Mario World, but I never seen anyone play it in one sitting. I didn't think it was possible. And I was just like, well, man, if he can do that, that was part of the reason. I was like, if he can do that, I can play Mario 3. I could be good at Mario 3. And that was kind of like my inspiration, really, to start speedrunning, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, getting involved with those is the best thing that could have ever happened. And I wouldn't have ever been, I would have never gone. I probably would have always been too scared if it wasn't for Carl Sagan, like, basically just saying, hey, you're going to do this.
You're stuck with me. You got to come out and do this.
Carl, he just basically was like, hey, you got a race. You're the one that we need. So thank you to Carl Sagan. 42 a million times over. Not the scientist, the speedrunner.
The speedrunner. Yeah. Don't get those two confused.
Yeah.
For those that are listening, you should check out the show notes, because Pooh here does a podcast called, is it Super? What is it?
The
Warp World Podcast. Getting those mixed up with something from later. The Warp World Podcast. The first
Branding.
2 episodes, I think, definitely episode 1, it talks a little about what going to GDQ is like, and it's kind of a cool peek behind the curtain, or behind the pixel, of, what GDQ is like. So I encourage you to listen to that, because for people who just watch GDQ, all you see is the couch. But there's a lot more going on there than just the couch, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
And,
Games Done Quick is not like any convention you've ever seen. It's because nobody's selling anything. It's literally just 1,500 nerds playing video games for 7 days. And that's video games and board games. That's what we do for 7 straight days. We eat, we drink, and we play video games and board games. And it's awesome. And we raise money.
It sounds great. I've always wanted to go just to watch. But there's some really cool stuff there. Now, you told me before the show, GDQ submissions are soon.
Next week, yeah.
How do you prepare to submit a time for a game or something like that? What is that process like?
I think it's different for everybody. I mean, there's some guys who are going to, like, they have their game and they're going to submit their game. and if it gets in, great. If it doesn't, that's cool too. For me, it's a little bit different. I try to kind of space my year out in like these 6-month blocks between GDQs now, where I kind of always, what I want to say, like I'm preparing for the next GDQ before the last one happened. In some ways, like I know what's like, so I'm preparing for the winter GDQ before summer Games Done Quick has happened, before I've had a run at Summer Games Done Quick, and it's really hard. I think it's harder because I play Mario. It's an ultra competitive category of games, and there's also an extreme amount of great runners there. But like some guys get together and they're just like, oh, this game's never been ran at GDQ. I'm gonna speedrun it and submit it, and it has a really good chance of getting in. You know what I mean? There's also the guys that run like really crappy games, like really, really bad video games. And some of those get in GDQ, you know what I mean? There's all sorts of different ways to get into Games Done Quick, and I think it's different for everybody, the preparation. I probably over-prepare, and I probably freak out about it, and I probably care too much about it, and I probably take all of this way too seriously. And I know I'm definitely in the upper echelon of taking it seriously compared to a lot of other speedrunners, which is both a good and bad thing. So I personally, like, I'm like, right now I'm like in the grinding 8 hours a day of practice to get a submission video ready. And then basically I'll just run it on my stream, hope that my commentary is funny enough and good enough that I put up a good video until I get my best time. But yeah.
That's the commentary you just talked about on your stream and stuff is kind of interesting and leads me to my next thing. You have the community, the Poo Nation. A lot of people like to, watch your stuff. I mean, that's how you make your living. You do this full time. Mm-hmm. How do you interact and engage and balance the community?
Like between playing the game and interacting with chat? Is that what you mean? Or just like
just in general. Like, you have a lot of people that like to watch you play games, and like you said earlier, people tweet at you all the time to play their levels and stuff. Like, how do you balance that with, your own personal life, wife, family, friends? Like, you've got a community of people that follow you, and
yeah, I mean, it's hard. My wife, she might be able to answer this question better than me, honestly, but she always tells people I'm always on. Even when I'm not online, I'm always on. I am probably a bit more active Twitter-wise than I should be. But like, because it only gets you in trouble in the long run. But I mean, not that I try to stay away from things that could, but like I'm probably a bit more active in responding to people than a lot of people are, maybe. Or I'm very active in my Discord. I'm very active with my chat. I respond to YouTube comments, which a lot of guys don't do. I don't know. I like it. I think I really appreciate this. I really appreciate what I have going right now. I'm making a pretty good life for myself, doing the thing that I absolutely love to do most in the world, and not many people get to do that. And it's all because some people take time out of their day to watch me. I think a lot of streamers and us, we forget that, like, people are taking their time out of their day to watch you play video games, and this world didn't exist even 10 years ago. Barely existed 5 years ago, and it's really crazy, and I'm not deserving of it. There's a million other streamers out there. There's 10,000 speedrunners out there. I'm not deserving of everything I get, and I'm very appreciative of it. And some of it is luck, and some of it's hard work, and some of it maybe whatever. It's just I definitely know that there's other guys out there that deserve it just as much as me, if not more. And I guess I'm just very appreciative that I get it, and I don't ever want to forget that. And the people who allow me to do that are the people out there that are tweeting at me, that are watching my stuff, that are commenting on YouTube videos, that are watching my stream every day, that take money out of their freaking pockets, that they work their shitty job for, to give it to me so I can work my awesome job. Like, that's insane. That's just an insane concept and a crazy thing to me. And I don't know. I feel like the least I can do is just interact, I guess, like talk, like give them a little bit of access. I don't know, like I don't know what they want. At the end of the day, I'm just a human. Like I don't know, I just like talking with people. Yeah, I just also like talking with people on the internet.
That's one of the reasons I particularly love Twitter, and Twitch is exactly the same way. Is it gives you direct access. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like to set up this interview, I tweeted at you. I'm like, hey, how can I get in touch with you to do this? That's the reason I love Twitter. I don't think I would interact or be as aware if I didn't have this kind of almost one-to-one access. It feels like that, but it's not always. It's a really cool thing. And Twitch, I feel like lately, and you could speak to this more because you've been doing Twitch for so long, it's really grown within the industry, and it's almost essential now that people have to be able to stream. You see people do Let's Plays all the time now, including big media. IGN does it all the time. You'll see, I think Waypoint does a PUBG stream like every morning. Like it is essential now. What do you think about that? Just this fact of watching other people play games is now essential to the industry.
Yeah, it's what a world, like I think that's the first thing is like, what a wild world. Like whoever thought this would happen. I mean, it in some ways it makes sense to me in that, like, if you look back on your life, like I remember when Grand Theft Auto 3 came out and me and my friends would gather around and one person would play and then we'd pass the controller and we'd all watch each other play. And it's kind of similar to that in Twitch. Like it's not like it's too far-fetched to think about that happened. It's I think as long as there's I mean, it's like any other spectator sport in some ways. Like there's a market for it, and it's weird. I think the essentialness of it comes down to like Twitch itself being becoming a name brand in even beyond video games. Like Twitch has its foothold in so many things now. It's had viral hits with like Bob Ross and the Sesame Street things. These are when Piano Improv Man, he got mentioned all over the world, like on regular newscasts. It's becoming so essential. And I think the other thing is about Twitch is that they don't have a large share of necessarily bodies or viewers yet of people who are watching online games, but they do have a large market share of the cash involved in online games. And I think that's the other thing you're seeing is that these companies like IGN and Waypoint, they got to survive at the end of the day, and they can't be adverse to new media in any shape, form, or fashion, and they're going where the money is. Like at the end of the day, it's a business, especially for them. I mean, it's a business for me, but especially for them. They're companies. They have, people with kids. I'm one dude. They're legitimate companies. They see that they can make money off this, and that's why they want to get into it. And that's why you see NBA creating their own esports platform and people paying $20 million for Overwatch. At the end of the day, it's essential because there's freaking money in it, like it's crazy. It's
a lot of money. I mean, look at GDQ. Look at how much money they raise for good causes. They've broken $1 million, I think, at least the last 3 times.
It's a lot of. I've been four times, and the lowest we've raised is 1.4 million.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. And that's just people wanting to watch other people. I mean, the good cause is also a part of it, but it's wanting to watch people do really crazy stuff, like play Ocarina of Time blindfolded.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. And Twitch, what? And the other thing I should say, Twitch also has given everybody the ability to make money now, too. It's not just like a limited amount of people. Now that they've opened up their subscription platforms, and you can have Twitch Prime, like you can have your own Amazon Prime account. Link it to your girlfriend's Twitch account, and she can subscribe to you, and you can have no viewers. You know what I mean? And there you go. You get a little bit of money back. I think that also adds to it too. It's just being like sucked into the Amazon bubble, and Amazon, getting that Amazon push of like Amazon's just ingrained into your life. Like they're ingraining Twitch into people's lives now. That's another thing that I don't think it's a secret that. Since Amazon's bought it, Twitch has gotten bigger. Like that's. I know.
That correlation is not a coincidence.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing. I don't think there wouldn't be as many full-time streamers out there if it wasn't for Amazon.
Thanks, Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to, like, hey, thanks, like, I'm not a, I
Hey,
don't want to be an Amazon lackey, but I appreciate it, but it is kind of crazy, and whether you're pro Amazon or anti Amazon, I could give a shit. It's like it just speaks to how big that company is in general.
yeah,
Yeah.
Amazon's a giant.
Hmm.
What was it like making this your full time job? Being, this is what you do, 9 to 5, so to speak.
Scary. I mean, I was very fearful to make the jump, I guess. Um, I was, I mean, because first of all, I had been streaming for like through 2.5 years, I think, before, maybe 2 years before, like, I ever really broke 20 viewers. Like, I always, for years, I had just like my consistent, like, 10 to 15 viewers, and that was all I was, and all I thought I'd ever would be, and that was just that. And I was content and happy, and I just wanted to play video games. And once Mario Maker came out and it started to get bigger and bigger, I thought, like, all right, well, I'll top out at 100. I'll top out at 200 viewers. I'll top out at 250. And it never really started. It never really topped out. And it got to a point where I was doing announcing. I was taking announcing gigs, and those were, pay per event type gigs. And one day it got to a point where I thought taking this announcing gig, I would have had to take a gig that would have caused me to miss my stream, and I thought that would lose money for me. And I talked to my wife about it, and she looked at me, and she was kind of like, this is your dream, right? Like, wouldn't this be your dream? Like, why not give it a try? And so I made the decision to go full time shortly thereafter. I took like 4 more gigs with these companies, and I made the decision to go full time shortly thereafter. And after that, it really started to snowball. And because I put more time into it, more effort into it, I started putting more effort in my YouTube. Diversifying where my platforms were, because at first I was very Twitch focused, and then I wanted to become the Wu-Tang financial advice: diversify your bonds. That was what I was thinking. Like, I don't want to be just on Twitch. I also want to be on YouTube. I want to have a presence on there as well. And it just kept snowballing and rolling. And then Amazon announced Twitch Prime happened, and that basically doubled every streamer's money, like literally overnight, which is kind of weird. And it just was kind of a perfect storm of events for me to go full time. It was definitely something I fell into. I never once planned, like, I was not the streamer that was like, I'm going to make this my job. I'm going to make this my career. I never thought that would happen. Yeah.
I think it's difficult to go in with the intention of doing it too.
It's too much pressure. You put too much pressure on yourself if you do that. You try to be, I see it a lot where guys try to be something they're not, or they're trying to be what they think the viewer wants, instead of just being themselves and just kind of letting it play. And some guys can play a character, like Dr. Disrespect can play a character. But I also think he kind of is that character in a lot of ways, like kind of like how Ric Flair is kind of Ric Flair, like he's like, you got to kind of be yourself, or an amplified version of yourself. You can't be what you think others want you to be. And I see that so many times where people like get on Twitch because they want to be a big streamer instead of just playing games,
That's what it all comes back to.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, you have to really love games to do it full time. I think you have to really, really love games to do it full time.
One last, 2 more questions, I think.
Ask away.
Do you when you play new games, like you just played some Sonic Mania when that came out a couple weeks ago and stuff, I know you always look for strats or things that you could do faster, but do you ever look at a game coming out, and I know you don't run 3D Marios, but maybe Odyssey could be an example. Like, you look at that game or something new coming out, and do you go, man, I want to be on the ground floor of learning to speedrun this game, or are you only going to be 2D Mario platform guy?
I am always on the idea that I'll speedrun whatever is the most fun for me at the time.
Okay.
And I've been lucky enough to do that so far. I have dabbled in learning Mario 64, so it's not like I'm like Mario 64 is the speedrun everyone knows, and I don't know it, so I want to learn it. I think it just comes down to like with new games. New games are always kind of scary because the routing takes so long, and that's not necessarily the part that I love the most. There are some people that love routing. They're like, oh, I love figuring this out. And don't get me wrong, I love discovering a new strat as well, but I really love it more when someone else discovers a new strat and I just discover a slightly better way to do it, and it took me a lot less time. And I know that sounds selfish and shitty, but that's I don't know, it's just not, that's not what I'm necessarily into as other people are.
It sounds like to me you like to perfect.
I like to perfect.
Yeah, you hammer it out and just make it better and become the best you can be.
Yeah.
It's what it sounds like.
Yeah, if speedrunning ever gets big enough, I'll be the first one to hire a coach so I can avoid all the thinking about it part. No, yeah, that is true. And routing is important. And I've done tons of routing for my games. Like, it's not like I'm completely absent of routing. And I spent, everyone knows, like, the big thing in Mario 3 is that, because I came into Mario 3 really late, and Mario 3 is a pretty, I don't want to say done, but it's like we haven't found any new discoveries in a while. And I really want to find something new that we all do in Mario 3. Like, it's like I really want to just leave my little stamp on it. So it's not like I completely abandon routing at all, but it's not my necessarily tip-top thing. I think the other thing with new games is, for me, new games are just like, a lot of them are really long.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're just really long. Like, the Galaxy games are just, like, they're like 2.5 hour speedruns. And that's just a really long time for me personally. Because I'm someone that, like, if I screw up, I like to reset. So I kind of like something that's under an hour myself. Yeah, it's a little bit more compact, and it gives you, it also, like, that's this sounds weird, but it's like an easier time commitment for the viewer if they want to watch a whole run. I think that's, I don't necessarily, I want to say that's, like, important to me, but I do appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's just my own attention span. An hour is about as long as I can go with a speed run. So I think that's most of the big thing for me with new games. But Odyssey,
it comes out. It comes out. Obviously, well, we know the anniversary and the wedding date. It comes out a week later. I'm gonna be on a cruise.
Yeah, I was about to say you're gonna have to download it on your Switch and just like.
If I take my Switch, let alone try to download that game on the cruise Wi-Fi, my then wife would kill me. So I will play it when I get home.
Oh man!
But I wrote a letter to Nintendo because they announced those wedding themed amiibo. And we were already going to put Mario and Peach amiibo on we're doing pie instead of cake, but we're going to put them on top. And I wrote to them a letter. I was like, anyway, you could send this to me early so we could have wedding themed ones. I haven't heard back, but I thought it was worth a shot at the very least.
I think they're going to have those amiibo at PAX West this weekend, so I'll try and swipe them, just take them right off the stage, like. You
could try, just run in there, just grab them.
I'll do my best.
The last question is the one I ask every guest. It's just a piece of advice for listeners, whether it's someone who wants to stream or someone who wants to, learn to speedrun Super Mario Bros. 3, but just some piece of advice you would be willing to share with everyone out there, if you have any.
The worst people on the internet are not representative of 99.9% of people on the internet.
I like it.
That's the piece of advice I will give you. It's not going to matter much when you first start streaming or doing anything, but it will matter eventually. And the vast majority of people that appreciate you are too scared to ever say anything. And the 0.01% of people that hate you will be loud and tell you every single minute. And you can't focus on that or worry about that at all, because it'll drive you insane.
It's the silent majority versus the vocal minority.
Yes, and that's vastly true when it comes to content creation or Twitch and YouTube, like in general. Nerds are mean.
Nerds can be very mean.
Nerds can be mean, yeah. Yeah, people take their video games too seriously sometimes.
Very serious.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I think that is all I've got for you today. Thank you so much, Pooh. David Hunt, what, Pooh? We're just going to call you Pooh. Thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. Do you want to plug all your stuff? Plug.
I want to plug. Yeah, so plug GrandPOOBear, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, I guess Instagram now. I'm doing all that stuff. POO, no H, one word.
Yep.
And then I also want to plug super.warp.world.
Yes, this is actually what I forgot. Please plug.
It's a really cool project. 25 of the world's best Mario Maker creators. Me, Carl Sagan, Barb, the Beast, Oski, tons of great, incredible creators. All came together, and these are all name brand names in Mario Maker. But we all came together and created a full-blown Mario game that spans everything that you can see in the Mario Maker game, and it's actually has its own speedrun.com category, and we're kind of trying to bring the speedrun game back over to Mario Maker, and it's really cool project. There's super fun levels. We have a leaderboard set up. People can have world records. You can set your times. We have a rule set at super.warp.world. Please check it out. It's awesome. It's a great project. We spent about 6 months on it. It's as close as we're going to get to a full-blown game inside of Mario Maker. So it's essentially the first new semi-official 2D Mario game in a long time.
There you go.
Yeah.
If you guys are listening to this, there will be a link to that in the show notes. Also, the YouTube trailer. They put out a trailer for it, so that will be in the show notes. Go check that out. It was announced last night from the day we're recording, so very timely as far as what this goes.
And we'll be doing races every Monday. I think it's we're going to do them every Monday or Wednesday bi-weekly, live on Twitch, and you can participate in those races as well. So feel free to go to super.warp.world. Information will be popping up there as that'll happen.
Super.warp.world. Go check it out. Very cool project. Mm-hmm. It's the newest hot thing in Mario Maker. Go check it out. Do you think it'll ever be at GDQ? SGDQ next year?
You know, I mean, if people get good enough at it, I think it has an opportunity. I think it's actually really impressive and cool to see. I've seen a couple of the testers have kind of speedrun it, and it's been really fun to see. So I think it has a very good opportunity to one day be at a GDQ.
Maybe.
Yeah, if not the GDQ, there's definitely other marathons.
I was, maybe you could do one of those races.
Smash the record. Yeah, that's what we're the plan.
All the creators do a race.
The plan is the long term. The long term plan is to get it in there eventually. Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Absolutely.
So go check Pooh out on Twitch, Twitter, all those, YouTube, and super.warp.world. Check it all out. As far as this show, Behind the Pixel, you can check us out at modelcitizensmedia.com. You can follow me on Twitter at MaxTheWhite. This show goes up every month, but we've got other podcasts. We've got the Model Citizen Show, where the four of us get together and talk about whatever we like. We've got Reeling in the Years, where Logan and Michael talk about different eras in music. And then we've got Millennial Gaming Speak, which is our just weekly gaming news podcast where we talk about video games. So go check all that stuff out. It's on Apple Podcasts, it's on Google Play, and Stitcher, as well as YouTube. So go check out all of that cool stuff. And until next time, thank you very much, both Pooh Bear and the listener, and we'll see you all next time.